Coming up next, we have a new installment of The Real Footage Show with Tim Davis with the topic this time of stained glass. Stay tuned.
A variety of pop culture, TV, music, nostalgia, Tim the TV Network.
Hello again, and welcome to the 4th episode of the 300th series of The Real Footage Show. I'm Tim Davis. Today we are going to be exploring the fun and interesting world of stained glass. Now, many of my Facebook friends and YouTube followers probably by now know me as more of a radio and TV connoisseur. So when it comes to something as of this topic, it might bring up a deal of great concern to people wondering where stained glass fits into that. Well, today we're going to show you and tell you all about this wonderful world of art made out of glass in this new edition of the Real Footage Show. Now, it all begins for myself back in the early 1990s when I was around 11 and 12 years old. At that time, usually children like to collect stamps or bugs, but for me it was something a little bit different. You see, there happened to be this small store in my area that carried stained glass items, from sun catchers to table lamps to everything from full glass windows for buildings. And what drew me to this shop was the sun catchers, as they call them, or the stained glass items that you would hang on your window for the sun to shine through them to illuminate the beauty of them. When I seen these items in this shop window, I had to go in and see what it was all about. At first, I thought they were made out of plastic. Being that young of age, I wasn't really quite sure that they were actually works of art made out of glass. And even though the hobby for me only lasted for around 2 to 3 years at that time, it was still quite an interesting part of my life, being that I was drawn to that at an age. And today, in this new edition of The Real Footage Show, I'm going to share with you some of those items that I collected during those years of my stained glass collecting days. Now, a few of these items are holiday related because at the time when I began my collection, it was near the Christmas season of that year. So the vast majority of these are holiday themed for that reason. Starting with the very first one that I began as my collection is known as the Santa moon. This moon, which resembles a regular moon, is shaped that of a Santa Claus, and it has your mostly all white glass with peach for the face and red being used, of course, for the Santa hat. Now, one thing, if you're not familiar with stained glass, is red glass is one of the most expensive to make when they melt the glass down because it has gold dustings in it. So out of any of the colors there are to make stained glass with, red is the most expensive because of the gold dustings that they have to use in it. So this is the very first one that began my collection for stained glass, the Santa moon. In no particular order, up next is this stained glass of a bird. And one important thing to mention about this is, while it is very colorful, right here in the center of the flower is a jewel, which is known as a cabochon in the stained glass world. That is a bunch of pieces of glass melted together to make this one piece. Now, it's not very noticeable on camera, but it's actually about 3 to 4 dimes on top of one another in thickness. As I said, it takes a lot of pieces of glass to melt down to be able to make something about that big. So they use them usually to accent pieces either on a tabletop light shade or in something like this. While this one only has one, many pieces of stained glass can have up to 50 to 100 depending on what it is that they created. Mostly you find that many on a Tiffany style lampshade for a tabletop light. But they are used though in sun catchers such as this. My favorite thing about this stained glass is the colorful patterns of the bird with the black and the red, and the flower being a light blue and the green. Very interesting piece of art and very eye-catching. This next piece is a stained glass cactus. And while this one is quite smaller than many of the ones I will show you, it's very special to me because this one was specifically made for me by the shop owner at that time. While this store featured many products on stained glass, they had a rack of magazines and books, many of which featured patterns if you were a beginner or a user of this art form, to use the patterns to make your own. And I was flipping through the pages, and while many of the patterns were that of sunsets or rainbows and birds and etc., it was interesting to come across this. This caught my eye for some reason, this solid cactus. And I asked him if he could make me up one like that. And he did. The only thing, though, that is not part of the original design is the original actually had black little tiny spikes coming off of the sides of the cactus to resemble the spikes on a cactus. And while he thought I might get hurt on them, he decided not to include them in the final product. So I still have this piece, though. This was very important because it was specifically made for me, being that it wasn't anywhere in the store, and it kind of made me feel very special. The solid green cactus. As I mentioned earlier in the program, the majority of these stained glass pieces were purchased around the holiday season of that year, so most of them are holiday themed. Here's another example of that, this one being a snowman, again featuring primarily all white glass with the exception of the snowman's scarf in green and the snowman's hat in red, and just 2 dots for eyes. A very simple piece, but yet very effective and very interesting to bring out around the holiday times. This is the stained glass snowman as part of the stained glass collection. Our next piece here is a bird, but we have it taken apart so we could show you an example as to what artists have to do when they're creating pieces of art like this. First of all, after the pattern is, they cut out all the pieces of glass to fit that certain pattern that they are working on. And each piece of glass is then cut out specifically to the shape they need it to be. And then each piece is copper foiled with a special material. And then it is all soldered together in place like a big puzzle being put together. If a piece is off by a few inches or so, or a couple of centimeters, then the whole thing will not fit properly. So it's very important, and you have to be very precise when cutting out your pieces. This bird here, with the wing still not attached to it, it would go in this area right here. But just to show you an idea up close here, that this part here is the solid glass right there. And that's without the foil on it. So the foil would then be put on that, and then this part over here, which is the soldering part, is what holds it all together. So they would then solder that part and connect this wing to that part. And of course, letting it dry in the process or set until everything was held together. One thing, the reason why this is like it the way it is, it actually broke some time ago and hasn't been repaired since then. But it's very important to handle pieces of stained glass very cautionally, because you're dealing with pieces of glass and they can easily break, or a piece could come off, because they're very intricate details of work. Specifically also with lampshades for Tiffany style stained glass lighting. Those are the most probably difficult to make, being that you have to make them in the shape and the form of a light shade, and many of them have special curves in them. Many have many glass counts to them, and they all have to hang down and suspend into air. So each piece and each soldering technique has to be done very intricately when putting them together, because it's a giant puzzle of glass, if you want to call it that, hanging in air. So especially when it comes to Tiffany style lighting table lamps or floor lamps, it's very important when putting them together to make sure that the final product is what you will be enjoying. Our next piece is this rainbow piece of stained glass art. Again, a simple design, but very effective. This kind of glass is a little bit different. It's actually almost see-through. Some pieces of glass are very thick in consistency, and it's very difficult to see through them. But as you can see in this, the orange and sometimes a little bit of the blue, you can actually see through it. This simple rainbow design features white clouds at the end of the rainbow on both sides, and the colors of blue, orange, and yellow. Very interesting. This one also came with another set, but I was unfortunately not able to get. It came with a sunrise in the shape of a picture frame, but that was quite expensive for a child of 12 years old. So I figured that the rainbow would be better than nothing. So this is the rainbow stained glass piece of art. Here is another piece from the collection, this being another bird to share with you. This very colorful bird on a branch with leaves and pink flowers is one of my favorites. I love the color scheme of this one and the entire shape of it. Now, just as a reminder, while many of these might not appear on camera to be glass, they are. This is glass. Some stained glass pieces over the years have been called stained glass, but they're actually made out of a plastic material, which still could be hung in windows and whatnot. But these are the real thing. These are pieces of glass all soldered together and cut out. So it's interesting to see what they could do with pieces of glass like that are the size of a puzzle piece. Put them together to make a piece like that. Now, this bird here, again, the camera might not pick up on it, but has the pink flowers here. And very colorful with the bird with the blue feathers and the red stomach. A very, very interesting piece. And while this store that I was dealing with at the time was focused more seen on nature items for stained glass pieces, mostly in the bird category or with the sun and rainbows. On occasion, you would find something different, mostly around maybe Halloween time with a skull head or a bat or ghost stained glass made, or for the time I had the cactus specifically made. But overall, each piece that came from that store was very special because they were all handmade, hand-cut, hand-soldered, and put together from simple patterns to create beautiful works of art such as these. If you would like further information on stained glass art and the creations of such projects, there is a paper that is put out specifically to stained glass stores within your area, whoever carries the paper. Stained Glass News has been around for many years. This actually happens to be a 1993 issue right here that I am holding, but there are current issues being put out currently in the present year. You could visit them on their Facebook page. Just type in Stained Glass News in the search box on Facebook, and you will come across the page, which gives you more information about links to the website. You could also meet up on there with fans of the art form and chat with them as well. This paper is only carried at select stores that carry the paper. So on the Stained Glass News website, there is a section where you could put in your zip code number, and it will bring up stores that are the closest to you in your area that carry this paper. So thank you for joining us for this edition of The Real Footage Show. A little bit more off topic than what you're accustomed to of past programs. Usually we talk about topics of old-time radio and television, but that's the variety of this show. It gives you a little bit of everything, a little bit of information, a little bit of entertainment, and always tries to keep you informed and up to date on the happenings and behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on here with Tim Davis. So thank you for joining us. Please leave comments or questions if you have any in the comment section, either on YouTube or Facebook. And until next time, I'm Tim Davis, and we'll see you next time for another edition of The Real Footage Show. Bye-bye, my friends.
Tim the TV